I am CTO for AIO Integrations, and this is actually a third time we've done this. We're doing something, we switch it up a little different every time. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is what's broken in cybersecurity, why it isn't working, uh, why do they continually why are they able to continually get in? Breaches that we see happening, like with Change or United Healthcare, and these things happening, AT&T. Why is it that with even these bigger companies and our smaller companies, aren't why isn't it working? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about why it's broken. All right. So right now, the financial impact, and I've covered this before. I'm going to go over this very quickly. Right now, business email compromise is the number one way that businesses are being compromised. And it's happening a number of ways. And we're going to talk about how that is and what people need to do or what companies need to do to actually train up their front lines. All right. And by the way, I've had this in the last couple of slides, but I want you to pay attention to this. These numbers are in trillions of US dollars. This is the damage being done by cybercrime worldwide in trillions. You can see here it keeps going up, and it's mainly because the right things, we're getting better at it, but we're still not doing the right things. So how hackers get in is a number of ways. The most common ways that we're seeing, and they got to realize hackers are hacking people. They're not hacking computers anymore. They do end up hacking networks through exploits and things like that, but how they start is by hacking people. And what I want you guys to understand, I'll use the latest breach as an example. Um, in the Change United Healthcare breach, which is, by the way, is the largest in healthcare history. They are losing around $832 million so far, and it has affected over 200 million consumers. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. They have traced this down and recently released. It was a result of one user within the organization who didn't use multi-factor authentication. A hacker found it, exploited it, and was able to get into the company. And that was how it started. This is how it all starts, is by hackers hacking people. They use phishing emails, clickbait pop-ups, URL phishing, and Google results. And yes, Google results. Hackers are now, these are groups, these are companies. They are spending thousands of dollars buying domain names, buying ads through Google. For instance, Geek Squad. There was a recent thing through Geek Squad where they were imitating Geek Squad. And they actually had websites up saying they were Geek Squad, and they would register and get ranked higher than Geek Squad themselves within Google and pay for ads to show up anytime people search for Geek Squad. And they would think that they were legitimate support places, and they would actually end up falling victim to these scams and then end up being victims in a compromise. Clickbait is the kind of thing that happens when you hit an infected website. I'll give you a perfect example. We do some work for endodontics, and there's a company called TDO for Endo that provides the solution, the software they use within their company. Well, their website, in order to support their users, is help.tdoforendo.com. So what did the hackers do? They went and registered help TDO for Endo, not help.tdoforendo.com. They registered that. So now when you land on that web page, which when people forget to type the dot in, and they do a lot, they actually go to a page that starts launching malware, pop-ups, and tries to take over people's computers. This is happening more and more often. URL phishing is the same thing, misspelling websites when you type it in. Maybe you type in three O's for office.com instead of one. They are buying up these domains, and they're using them as ways to catch people just making common errors, being busy, or just being people. And this is what happens. Google results happen when they buy ads. A lot of people don't understand, when you do a search for an ad with Google, you are actually getting a result. And the first 5 results that come in the left-hand side are usually paid ads. And you will see that it says sponsored by or some degree to let you know that these are ads. The real results actually start below that. So be conscious of the fact that the search engines all do this. They will put paid ads up before your results, and hackers are now paying for these ads because they realize people are using them. They are counting on you being busy, distracted. Their sites are very realistic looking, or maybe they got in and compromised a friend and they raided that friend's email address book and are sending you stuff that isn't imitating your friend. That happens like pop-up lookalikes. We've all seen them, the little pop-ups that come up and say they're Norton, we found a virus, or a Microsoft, contact Microsoft support right away, and here's the phone number. I'm going to tell you right now that there will never be a pop-up that is legitimate on your computer that says call a number. There's no such thing. Usually they will tell you not to do just the opposite of what you should do. Like it'll say, do not hit Control Alt Delete or you'll make it worse. Well, actually hitting Control Alt Delete and bringing the task manager up is the only way to actually get rid of it. So and there are things that your company should be teaching you. And we're going to talk about what those things are, how to be taught those things, where to get that training. We're going to talk about that today. So they use those things to get in, and then they use browser exploits. They look for things, out of date systems, unpatched software, ineffective protection on the endpoint. And once they get in, they find out how to do the most damage. Okay, so keep in mind, hackers are not hacking their computer. They're starting with you, then getting to your computer, then getting to your data. That could be your emails, that could be your friends, that could be what's stored on your information, and then, of course, the places you work. So, how do you reduce your risk? This is a screenshot from one of our systems that we just implemented in our 2.0 product. So, I'm going to show you. Owners and managers need to be more diligent about fortifying frontline defenses. You guys have heard the best offense is a good defense. Well, we all are familiar with football, and we know that in football or soccer, we have these offensive linemen, these people that are up in the front line. Their purpose is to stop the people, the other team, from getting to the football or the soccer ball or the person who has the important stuff. Their job is to stop people from getting past them or to prevent them as long as possible from getting past them. All right. So we need to be better at making our employees or fortifying our employees with the right tools and the right knowledge to make them our offensive front line or our defensive front line and to keep those people out. And this is the big thing when we go to all these junkets for FBI and Homeland. The biggest question we have is how do we fix end users? How do we make end users better? Because it's starting here with the end user every single time. 9 out of 10 hacks start with a person, with an employee falling for stuff they should be trained and know better than to do. And they're not paying attention, or they didn't pay attention to the teaching. And this is becoming more common. I'm going to give you a very good example. We went into a school district we do some consulting for, and I was sitting outside the superintendent's office talking to his secretary, who was talking about how they had to take cybersecurity training this year for the first time. And it was mandated by the district, by the state for the district. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. What did you learn? And her next response just took me back. Well, I didn't, not much really. I was doing my nails. And I said, really? So you weren't required to like take a test afterwards or to, kind of acknowledge what you learned? She said, no, they just want to make sure we were on there so they keep track of how long we watched. I said, really? So they're doing the bare minimum of what they need to do to meet the state minimum, but they don't realize that they're missing an opportunity to train their employees to do the very thing that they need to do, and that's recognize threats, exercise zero trust, and become less risky. So we have implemented a platform in our system that makes accountability back to the owners and managers. We have our new training system actually tracks how the employees test. It has a full training session on awareness, a full training session on phishing. We even have training on HIPAA compliance and other things, but I'm going to focus on these two things right now. And what it does is it allows them to see how their employees are scoring, making sure they pass, making sure they take it. It constantly reminds them and keeps them in, and they have to take it by a certain time or they fail. And it measures their their answers, how they perform is measured and creates a risk assessment of that employee or that person. So we're training them not just what to look for, but what to do in the event of that happening. We're actually taking even a step further, and I'm going to show you what's really cool in our next thing. We need to keep training them. It's kind of like you own any. I own several dogs. I have 3 dogs, and one of my dogs is a digger. When you take that dog into the backyard after he dug a hole and you've discovered it, and you show that dog that hole, and you go, "You stop doing that right now," and he's looking at you like, "What are you talking about? I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about." Unless you catch them in the act, they don't understand what it is they're supposed to be learning. So to change that, to make a better effect at this, we have implemented what we call simulated phishing. So we can catch employees and personnel in real time clicking on things they shouldn't. We actually have a program, and we'll demonstrate this later. And we can do this for individuals as well and show you what they look like. But what we do is we pick, and we can imitate hundreds of companies, and we'll mix and match it. Maybe we'll Costco, Google, FedEx. We can be your healthcare company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Netflix. We can pick any of these companies, and these are very realistic emails that are meant to do one thing. They are meant to fish your employees and catch them not paying attention. So when we do catch them, we can bring them to a page of training and teach them in real time what they did wrong. Oops, you did this. You should have looked for this, and you would have recognized that this was a phishing email. Otherwise, you would have put your credentials in here, and this hacker would have had access to this. So we're teaching them in real time to help them understand, and this constantly gets updated all the time. And then these results of who does what are part of the risk assessment of the employee. So we can understand, you can make a report by employee, you can look at your whole company as a whole, and they build a risk assessment of your company and show you which employees need more help than others and help you close those gaps. Having this accountability is how we're going to fix cybersecurity, because as always, the big thing that's broken is people. And the main thing that we want you to understand is the financial impact of not acting here, of not doing something like this, is great. I showed you some numbers on the front side of this. They are completely real. These are not made up numbers. These numbers are getting larger and larger every year. Hackers are organizing. They disappear into one group, reappear on another, and they are getting bigger and bigger. Everybody heard about Change Healthcare, United Healthcare. We talked about that. They paid out $22 million to one hacker group, didn't get their stuff back, and now they're being blackmailed by a second ransom group that participated, that the first ransom group cheated the second ransom group out of their half. No honor among thieves. So they're still being impacted by something that literally happened 3 months ago, and it's interfered with their ability to send prescriptions, pay insurance claims for millions of people. And these hackers don't care. This is about money. They don't care if you're 5 employees, 10 people, 1,000 people. Everything's a payday. Any way they can disrupt is a payday. And right now they're finding that people would rather pay than even mess with anything else. So how do you prevent this problem? You prevent it by not letting them in the first place. Don't give them the opportunity. Don't be one of the 9 out of 10 that let people in. Be that 1 out of 10 that doesn't. And that's how you fix this situation. I want you also to know that most claims for breaches under cyber insurance are not paid. And I'm going to use this Change Healthcare thing as an example. Most insurance companies, okay, require that you have cybersecurity awareness training for your employees and that they pass, and you can prove it. It requires that you have security precautions in place, some kind of cyber security precaution. It also requires that you use multi-factor authentication, MFA, across your entire organization on every single system. Now, as we just found out about Change Healthcare, they did not do that. They had one employee, they didn't enforce it for it, they got in. And as a result of this, I can guarantee you their cyber insurance company is going to come back, and I doubt they're going to pay this claim over it. The other thing is, if it's affiliated with a state actor, by any means. Like I'm talking about like North Korea, Russia. If the group that breaches is associated with a state actor, that's considered a act of terrorism. They don't pay for that. If it's caused by a company contractor, employee, or ex-employee, don't won't pay for it. These are all reasons they refuse to pay claims. So I want you guys to keep be aware of that, what the risks are, and that you need to be the 1 in 10, not the 9 in 10. So my final takeaway in this, I know I'm going very fast to make up for time, but you guys must be prepared. Businesses must be prepared to strengthen the front line. You need to educate employees. You need to have a way to track that education, to find out where your risks are and to mitigate those risks ahead of time. Get them trained up, get them understanding that, and keep teaching them. The second thing is you need to leverage multiple solutions. What I mean by that is risk assessment, penetration testing, having a good monitored cybersecurity solution in place. You need to be using BDR. BDR stands for backup and disaster recovery, that it has persistent storage. That means hackers can't touch it. And by the way, for those of you who think that OneDrive and uh, you know, uh, um, Dropbox are backup systems, they are not. And they are just as susceptible to being encrypted as the data on your endpoint. The last thing is talking to a cybersecurity professional like myself and others about what you need to have in place, and somebody who knows what they're talking about. Not just an IT guy who knows how to manage your system, but somebody who actually has some certifications and some experience in protecting businesses against cyber threats. And that's going to be it. That's a very fast, very thing. But the big takeaway here is educate your front lines, educate your people.